Have you ever wondered why, in the toughest moments of your life, the voice that gives you courage, the heart that comforts you, or the hand that lifts you up often belongs to a woman? Think about it. When the world feels heavy, who teaches you strength without shouting? Who teaches you love without demanding anything in return? Who teaches you resilience without ever writing a book about it? That's the kind of inspiration I'm talking about today. And if you stay with me till the end, I promise you will walk away with a new respect for the women who have shaped your life, whether you realized it or not. Some women inspire us not because of the spotlight they live in, but because of the shadows they stand in. They don't always make headlines, but they quietly write history in their homes, in their workplaces, in their communities. Their inspiration is not about what they have, but about what they give. And the more you look at their lives, the more you realize that true greatness is not about being known, but about being felt in the lives of others. I want to share with you how certain women have shaped the way I think, act, and even breathe. It is their character, not their fame, that makes them unforgettable. These are the women who remind me every day that inspiration is not about applause, it is about impact. They teach us that strength is not just about fighting battles outside, but also about fighting the silent wars within. They show us that sacrifice is not weakness, it is the highest form of courage. And above all, they show us that wisdom is not measured in degrees or awards, but in how deeply it touches the hearts of others. So, as we dive deeper into this topic, I want you to think about one woman in your life, maybe your mother, maybe a teacher, maybe a friend, maybe even someone you've never met, but whose story has changed you. Hold her image in your heart, because by the end of this talk, you'll understand why women like her are not just part of your life. They are the reason you are able to live it with more strength, more love, and more purpose. True inspiration is found in character, not popularity. It is so easy today to mistake fame for greatness, to confuse visibility with value. We live in a world where the number of followers, the number of likes, the headlines, and the magazine covers seem to determine who inspires us. But pause for a moment and ask yourself, does true inspiration come from the crowd that cheers or from the quiet character that endures? The women who have left a mark on me are not necessarily the ones whose faces are everywhere, but the ones whose inner lives are rich, whose strength is unshakable, whose choices reveal integrity, kindness, and courage. That is where true inspiration lies. Popularity is like a wave. It rises, it shines, and then it fades. Character, however, is like the roots of a tree. It remains firm even in the fiercest storm. Think of it, how many popular figures have we seen rise overnight, only to vanish just as quickly, leaving nothing behind but a memory of their fame. And yet, the women whose characters are built on values like honesty, compassion, and resilience, they live on in our hearts even if no one ever wrote their names in history books. That is why inspiration is never about how loudly the world applauds you, but about how deeply your life changes those around you. I remember once meeting a woman who worked tirelessly as a caregiver for her community. She wasn't wealthy. She didn't have thousands of admirers or cameras following her around. But her character radiated something magnetic. She served others without seeking recognition. She smiled through exhaustion, and she carried people's burdens as if they were her own. Watching her, I realized something profound. Fame can impress you for a moment, but character can transform you forever. That kind of inspiration does not fade away because it is rooted in authenticity. Character is what you are when nobody is watching. It's easy to perform goodness in front of others, but it takes strength to live it in silence. Women of character inspire because they do not need an audience to validate them. Their actions, their consistency, their grace in hardship, all of these speak louder than any applause could. A woman who shows kindness when it is inconvenient, who remains strong when it would be easier to break, who stands for truth even if it costs her. This is a woman whose life becomes a living sermon. The danger of confusing popularity with inspiration is that we start chasing after images instead of substance. We begin to admire what is shiny, not what is steady. But true inspiration is not about what catches your eye, it is about what captures your soul. A woman of character does not just impress you, she makes you reflect. She doesn't just entertain you, she makes you better. That is the difference. Let me give you an example. A popular celebrity may inspire you to dress a certain way, speak a certain way, or even dream a certain dream. But a woman of character inspires you to become someone better. She awakens courage where there was fear. She ignites hope where there was despair. She reminds you of integrity when the world is teaching compromise. That is not imitation, that is transformation. And transformation is the mark of true inspiration. Popularity demands attention, but character earns respect. You can demand attention by being loud, flashy, or controversial. But respect comes only from the depth of your being. The women who inspire me most are the ones who have lived lives of service, sacrifice, and strength. They may not be written about in the newspapers, but they are written on the hearts of the people they touched. That is the power of character. The truth is, the women who inspire us the most are often the ones who will never know how much they impacted us. A mother who works tirelessly for her children. A teacher who plants seeds of wisdom that will blossom years later. A friend who stands by you in silence when the world walks away. None of these roles bring worldly popularity, but all of them carry immense character. And in the end, when we look back, it is not the applause we will remember, it is the kindness, the courage, the sacrifices, the values that quietly shaped us. So, true inspiration is not about how many people know your name, but about how many lives are touched by your heart. It is not about the spotlight, but about the light you carry within you. And that light, when it shines through character, has the power to guide others even in the darkest of nights. Women of character remind us that greatness is not measured in fame, but in faithfulness. They remind us that living with integrity is far more valuable than living with recognition. And they remind us that the kind of inspiration that lasts forever is always found in who you are, not in how many people are watching you. Sacrifice and strength go hand in hand. You cannot separate the two because one gives birth to the other. True strength is not about lifting heavy weights in the gym or showing the world how tough you are. It is about carrying burdens that no one else can see, choosing to give when it would be easier to keep, and standing tall when it would be simpler to bow down. And when I look at the women who inspire me, I see that their greatest strength is often revealed through their deepest sacrifices. Think about it, what is sacrifice? It is the act of letting go of something valuable for the sake of something greater. And what is strength? It is the ability to endure hardship and still move forward. Women have been embodying this connection for generations. A mother who sacrifices her own dreams so her children can fulfill theirs is not weak. She is the strongest person in that household. A wife who stands by her husband during financial struggles, not complaining but supporting, is not helpless. She is powerful beyond measure. A young girl who refuses to compromise her values, even if it costs her relationships or opportunities, is not naive. She is displaying a strength that comes from a deeper place. When sacrifice is rooted in love, it produces strength. And when strength is tested through trials, it often demands sacrifice. This is the rhythm of life that women teach us. They show us that strength is not always loud and visible. Sometimes it is quiet and unseen. A woman staying up late at night to care for a sick child, a daughter working extra hours to support her aging parents, a sister giving up her own comforts to make sure her siblings succeed. These sacrifices may look ordinary, but they carry extraordinary strength. What's fascinating is that the world often misunderstands sacrifice. Many think sacrifice is loss, but women of character show us that sacrifice is actually gain. You gain strength. You gain wisdom. You gain resilience. Every act of giving shapes you into someone tougher, someone deeper, someone more capable of handling life. A woman who has sacrificed knows the weight of suffering, but she also knows the depth of courage. She doesn't crumble under pressure because she has already walked through fire. That is why her strength inspires us. It is not built in comfort, but in sacrifice. There is also a sacred beauty in sacrifice because it reveals the heart. When someone sacrifices for another, it shows love in its purest form. Women who sacrifice daily demonstrate that love is not just a feeling, it is action. And from that action comes strength that astonishes the world. Have you noticed that the strongest women are often the ones who have been through the most? They carry invisible scars, but those scars are proof that they survived, that they endured, and that they came out stronger on the other side. Even history is filled with such examples. Countless women who fought for justice, who stood up for their families, who protected their communities. Every one of them had to sacrifice something. And yet, it was through those sacrifices that their strength shone the brightest. Their legacy reminds us that nothing worth building comes without a price. If you want strength, you must be willing to sacrifice. But here is the lesson we often miss: sacrifice and strength do not just belong to grand, heroic moments. They are found in the everyday decisions of life, in patience, in forgiveness, in kindness when anger would be easier. These small sacrifices demand strength, and at the same time, they build strength. A woman who forgives when she has every reason to be bitter shows a strength far greater than one who holds a grudge. A woman who sacrifices her pride to reconcile with someone shows courage greater than one who insists on winning every argument. It is in these daily acts that we see how sacrifice and strength walk hand in hand. When you admire the women in your life who inspire you, look closely and you will notice that their strength is not separate from their sacrifices. It comes from them. They are strong not in spite of what they gave up, but because of what they gave up. And this truth holds a mirror to all of us. If we want to grow stronger, we must be willing to sacrifice something. Comfort, convenience, ego, fear, whatever it is, strength is born in the act of letting go. So, sacrifice and strength are not two different paths. They are one road leading to the same destination, true greatness. And the women who embody this truth remind us that strength is not about what you can take from life, but about what you can give. It is not about holding on tightly, but about knowing when to release. It is not about proving to the world how tough you are, but about quietly enduring, loving, and serving in ways that make the world a better place. That is the kind of strength that lasts, and it always comes hand in hand with sacrifice. Their wisdom lights our path forward. There is something extraordinary about the way women carry wisdom within them, not always in loud speeches or intellectual arguments, but in the quiet way they live, in the choices they make, and in the words they speak at just the right time. True wisdom is not about having all the answers written in a book. It is about understanding life in a way that touches hearts and guides others. And when I think of the women who inspire me, what strikes me the most is not just their strength or their sacrifices, but the wisdom they carry, a wisdom that becomes a lantern for those who walk behind them. Wisdom often comes from experience, sometimes joyful, often painful. Women have walked through storms, through heartbreak, through struggles that would have broken many. And in those experiences, they have discovered truths that textbooks cannot teach. A mother who has lived through hardship may not have a degree in philosophy, but when she teaches her child about patience, about faith, about not giving up, she is sharing a wisdom forged in the fire of reality. And that wisdom, unlike theories, does not fade. It is practical, it is alive, and it becomes a guiding light for the next generation. There is a difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge can tell you how to live, but wisdom teaches you why you should live a certain way. Knowledge fills your mind, but wisdom fills your heart. Knowledge can be borrowed from a book, but wisdom is earned through living. And women who inspire us have this gift of wisdom because they don't just survive life. They reflect on it, they learn from it, and then they pass on the lessons. Their wisdom becomes a compass for those who feel lost, showing that there is a way forward, even when the path seems dark. Many times this wisdom is passed through simple gestures or words. A grandmother telling her granddaughter, "Don't rush through life, everything has its time." A friend who says, "Choose kindness even when it's hard, because the peace it brings is greater than revenge." A teacher who reminds her students that failure is not the end, but a beginning in disguise. These words may sound small, but they have the power to redirect lives. They linger in our minds long after they are spoken, reminding us when we are tempted to give up or take the wrong turn. That is the power of wisdom. It stays with us, lighting the path when we cannot see clearly ourselves. What makes women's wisdom so profound is often its connection to empathy. They do not just think logically, they feel deeply. They do not just solve problems, they understand hearts. And because of that, their wisdom reaches places that simple advice cannot. It touches the soul. It tells you not only what is right, but also how to carry it with love. That is why the guidance of women has shaped societies, nurtured families, and built futures. They carry wisdom that not only instructs but also heals. Sometimes we look at the women around us and fail to see this wisdom because it does not always come packaged in grand speeches. But look closer and you will see it in their patience, in their resilience, in the way they know when to speak and when to stay silent. Their wisdom is in the way they balance so many roles without losing themselves. It is in the way they forgive even when wrong. It is in the way they believe in someone else's potential even before that person believes in themselves. That kind of wisdom lights the path forward, not only for them, but for everyone who walks alongside them. The greatest legacy of a woman is not in material wealth, but in the wisdom she passes down. Generations rise because of the lessons carried from mothers, grandmothers, sisters, and mentors. A single sentence of encouragement, a piece of advice, or even a silent example can outlive her and continue to guide others long after she is gone. That is how wisdom works. It is eternal once it is given. So when I think of women who inspire me, I see them as living torches, carrying flames of wisdom that illuminate the road ahead. Their words, their lives, their sacrifices, they all converge into lessons that keep us from stumbling in the dark. And perhaps this is the greatest gift of all. not just that they live with wisdom, but that they share it. They remind us that no matter how uncertain the future feels, there is always light for the journey if we are willing to follow the wisdom of those who have walked the road before us. And that light, once received, is something we can carry forward to guide others too.